Namaste everyone. Please keep your spine erect. Eyes stay closed. Take a deep breath and exhale. Let's begin today's session. The YogaForThreeBodies opening chant. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Yamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrutyoma Muttangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Welcome everybody for this wonderful EkaShri Schools of Yoga one-day yoga retreat. We had a fantastic morning yoga session with Ekaji leading us through the beautiful Vinyasa Krama. And today, I'm super delighted to have the evening satsang with Shriram ji on some applied yoga philosophy. And we'll also have some beautiful Nadi yoga session where we celebrate music, dance, and how it flows. And Shriram ji also promised me that it's going to make rain to come. Take rain to come. We are going to do something with Amza version Raga, and let's see if the magic happens. So we're going to start with a beautiful invocation prayer from our YEC Asthana music family, Kiran, Gopi, and family. So they're going to start today's proceeding with a nice question. So Kiran and Gopi, all yours.
Namaste everyone. Today we will be singing a song called Boshambo by Swami Dayananda Saraswati in Revati Ragam and Adita. Shiva Shambho Swayambho, Oh Shambho, Shiva Shambho Swayambho, Oh Shiva Shambho Swayambho, Karunakara Mama Bhava Sagara
I also would like to introduce my team, or my team is like the YEC team. So I'll say a few words about what YEC is. YEC is an inspiration that Shriram ji invoked within me. And when he started sharing the wisdom of Patanjali, one word, samyama, as the secret to excellence. In fact, it's the pinnacle of all our yoga practice. And when I realized the concept of, when I understood the concept of samyama, then I felt like, this is a skill that we need to cultivate in our youth so that they could actually define excellence in the world. And I'm sure in today's talk from Shriram ji, it's going to introduce us to the yoga and then how it helps, everyone to realize excellence in each one of our pursuits, in pretty much everything that we do. And I think, so thank you, Shriram ji, for my inspiration. So I would love to invite Ramakant Garu. Please come on. I know you want to stay behind the camera, but so unfortunately, you signed up for this team, right? So Kiran, Ramakant, and Rajesh, and Savita. We are the 5 people. We are part of this new, very budding organization. And Kiran and I have been traveling together in the Shade Yoga journey. And Kiran and their entire family has been my backbone in Texas to share the joy of yoga. And we started this small organization, and where our primary focus is how do we help the youth to cultivate entrepreneurial and excellent skills based on yogic powers. There are 3 powers that we talk about: yama, niyama, and samyama. Yama, niyama are the universal human values. When you get a chance, please go toward the ranch. There are about 50 trees here, and each tree is named after one of the universal human values. There's like Satya, being truthful, non-violence, non-stealing, be happy always. So, and again, you'll probably learn some of those universal human values today. Along with the universal human values, we also want to, like I said, want to share this greatest wisdom. It's almost like a secret power that we can all cultivate within, the samyama, so that we can be the entrepreneurs. We can be whatever we want, and we can get there even joyfully. And this is the higher order need. And the source for that inspiration is Shriram ji and Eka ji. And I'm sure, Ramakant, anything that you want to share? Please, welcome. Welcome to Kiran, anything that you want to add?
You have said very good work. So I'll echo all of that. And Shriram ji, I joined the Patanjali Yoga Sutra session you did earlier, but it was like so immense. There was so much to absorb, and I only took like a very small percentage of what we had spoken. And as Srinidhi says, it takes multiple readings, multiple repetitions to really even grasp so much that we have to offer. So thank you so much for everything that you do for the community. You're definitely inspiring us to do better for others. And Ekaji, so nice meeting you. I know you joined only some part today, but I'm looking forward to more of the sessions with you. And great to have you in person.
And Kiran, if there is any data set, it took me 2.5 years listening to the same 6 1-hour recordings of Shriram ji for me to observe about less than 10%. I don't know where the less than 10% is. So that's one thing, right? So that's good. So with all that aside, so welcome Shriram ji and Eka ji. Thank you so much for blessing us. So with that, the floor is yours.
Ramakant didn't speak at all.
No. The only statement was in the morning. I was going through the, when I was doing the asana practices. So like the mother nature and then like the Devi, the motherness. So the asana flow was like that. Oh, it was extremely awesome to me. Male kind of thing, I don't know, yin and the yang. One side of it is what I'm more used to now. No, suddenly
You can also see the rhythm,
exactly.
right? It's like, we are like jerking and this and that.
I was telling her, the oil that flows,
It's like,
it's not like the water which is discrete, but the oil that flows from one container to the other.
And,
Thank you.
So thank you, Eka ji. So Shriram, please.
First of all, thank you for your enthusiasm. Thanks for coming. I know it takes a lot of effort to drag the body here, especially on the weekend when we have so many choices in front of us, how we want to spend our time. So I really appreciate you taking the time to discuss a little bit about yoga and this esoteric topic. 3 bodies. We all have one body, but the yoga scripture says no. There are 3 bodies, and that's what we're going to find out what they are. So I'd also like to, before I formally start talking about the subject of the 3 bodies, I'd like to express my gratitude to Srini, who's not here, he disappeared from I just want to mention that we're all learning together, growing together. Sangat Chatvam, that's what I'm reminded of. We're all helping each other grow in our path because the inspiration to start our yoga school, EkaShri School of Yoga, came from Srini. So Eka and I were traveling in Houston in December of 2016. We were teaching a workshop there. And towards the end of the workshop, he suggested, "Oh, we should start a non-profit school." And that's how the whole thing began. The seed of thought was actually planted by Srini. So we're all in fact, in the IDY, International Day of Yoga, they have a protocol, right? How many of us have attended the IDY event? Anyone? Okay. Do you remember the Invocation Chat? In that protocol book, they have selected a verse from the Rig Veda. Yes, you know that? Perfect. So it's a Rig Veda mantra. Sangachatvam samvadatvam sambho manamsi janata deva bhagam yatha purve sanjanana upasate. Sangachatvam. Let's all move together. We all have different paths. Our swadharmas are all different, but we can inspire each other. How one candle can light another candle and allow it to blossom to its fullness, express its full potential. We can be like that for all of us. So that is the spirit with which we begin the practice of yoga. We think yoga might be a selfish thing. We go into our yoga mat and do our practices. But when we practice yoga, we are actually inspiring others because we present to them the best version of ourselves. Before yoga, perhaps our mind is messed up. Oh, I'm angry. I get quickly triggered because somebody can say a word and I get frustrated or I get angry and just retort with harsh words. But then after yoga, the mind is so calm, tranquil, and we present to the world a more kinder version of ourselves. That is the biggest gift we can give in the world. We touch the people's life with the highest version of ourselves, and that's what yoga is. Okay, so with that said, once again, I'm thankful to all of you for taking the time to come here. I'm going to begin with a short invocation chant. This is composed by Adi Shankara. And this chant is the opening in the text that he wrote called Tattva Bodha. How many of us have studied that text, Tattva Bodha? Okay. So in Tattva Bodha, he talks about the 3-body doctrine. What are the 3 bodies and how we can attend to the 3 bodies? What are the mechanics behind them? And that's what we're going to explore today. So the invocation chant of that text, I will begin with that. So let's sit with a straight spine and let's close our eyes. Vasudevendra Yogendram Natva Jnanapradam Gurum Mumukshunam Hitarthaya Tattva Bodho Vidiyate. And gently, let's open our eyes. A very short invocation on Vasudeva, who we address as Yogindra, the Lord of Yoga. An auspicious beginning when we explore, when we tiptoe into the world of yogic wisdom. So it's a very sacred practice. The practice of Swadhyaya means self-inspired study of yoga. It is a sacred practice. All that we do in yoga, whether we do asana, pranayama, etc., is like a prayer. There's a sacredness associated with it. So we always begin with some invocation, bring the mind to that perspective. Okay, now let's talk about the three-body philosophy. So first of all, in the Bhagavad Gita, that's the word that talks about the body. The body, Krishna describes as Shriram. Shriram. Idam Shriram Kaunteya Shriram iti Abhidiyate. Is the verse. 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. This body, Shriram, is the body. This body is called Shriram. And Shriram has multiple meanings. We'll explore all that. Shriram, you can think of as a city. For example, many of the Indian cities, they are named Dharmakshetra, for example, or Kurukshetra. Kurukshetra is the name of the city. So, Kashi Kshetra, the place, a city. Kshetra also means a sacred place. Sacred place. So this body, although it is something that is different from us, in other words, by now I think we all understand that we are not the body. I'm sure that if you have read even a little bit of yoga scriptures or even the Bhagavad Gita, you will know that the body is something that is different from us. And that's a very beautiful analogy that is given in the Bhagavad Gita. Vasam jirnani yatha vihaya navadi grinnati naroparani yatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. Just like we buy new clothes, new garments, discard or worn out or old clothes. Like that, the body, once we use it up, we gather some life experiences, and once the body becomes old, what the self does is it acquires a new, it goes and purchases a new garment, right? Purchases a new, okay, give me a new body, and then it has another journey in that life experience. So that is the analogy that Bhagavad Gita gives. And this is called the Kshetram. Kshetram because it's a sacred place. It is sacred because divinity resides there. The divinity, the spark of divinity resides in the heart of all beings. Deep inside us, the self has the divine spark. Right? And because this body houses this spark, it is a sacred place. That is how it is defined. So this body is something sacred. And when we talk about the three bodies, you will see the three layers, like peeling the layers of onion. Right? So the three bodies is what we are going to examine, the sacredness of this, in order to experience and express our life. So this is a very sacred place because it houses the divine. Inside the heart of all beings, there's a spark of divinity that resides there. Is what Krishna says. Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hriddeshe Arjuna Tishtati. Ishvara resides in the heart, Hriddesha, the heart place, resides there in all beings. So this body is something very sacred. Now, how do we use this body? How do we use this? You can call it a garment, like the analogy that we saw. You can also think of it as a vehicle. Is how another analogy that Adi Shankara. Yogayatanam Shriram. That means Ayatanam, the vehicle. It's a vehicle that carries us in our life experience. So how do we use our vehicle? Suppose we have a car. It's our choice how we use it. Whether we go to a temple or whether we go to a place where it's not going to be very beneficial. You see, we have a choice to make. How we use the vehicle, there are different choices that we can make. And in the Yoga Sutra, Patanjali says there are fundamentally two choices we can make. And by body, I mean the body-mind complex, all three bodies, and we'll examine that a little later. So we can use the body in two fundamental ways. Ultimately, when you look at it, whatever different choices we make, you can classify either this or that. You want to know what are the two fundamental choices? Okay, so he says Bhoga and Apavarga. Bhoga and Apavarga. The full sutra, I'll just quote the sutra and then I'll talk about this. He says Prakasha Kriya Sthitishila Bhuta Indriyatmaka Bhoga Apavargartam Krishnan. Bhoga and Apavarga. What does it mean? You can use the body for normal transactional activity. In other words, experiences that give comfort or discomfort to the body, or you can say pleasure or pain to the body. That is one type of life experience. Another type of life experience is Apavarga. Apavarga means you can use the body as a vehicle of the journey to enlightenment. In other words, an experience where we transcend the body and we attain self-realization, realize who we are. And we will talk a little later about why that is important. Why do I need self-realization? I'm happy as I am, I'm comfortable, I'm well fed. So why do I need to explore that thought? We're going to see that a little later. So we can fundamentally use the body in two ways. Now the analysis of the Shriram and the three bodies will help us understand what is the role of the physical body, what is the role of the subtle body, and what is the role of the causal body. There are three bodies. So in Sanskritam, it is called Sthula Sharira, which is the physical body, and then Sukshma Sharira, which is the subtle body, and we will examine the mechanics. What are the constituents of the subtle body? We will see that in a few moments. And the third one is called Karana Sharira. Karana Sharira is the causal body. Karana literally means the cause. So what is it that causes our tendencies, our actions, our reactions, and so forth? We will examine that. So I hope so far it's clear. Right? We can use the body fundamentally one of two ways. Either caught up in this samsara. Samsara means like a merry-go-round where we are going in circles. Pleasure, pain, and we constantly go up and down this treadmill. You can think of it that way. The other aspect, the other way to use the body and mind complex is for a spiritual pursuit, in other words, for self-realization and so forth. Okay. Now, why do we need to study this? Why do we need to discuss about and understand the subtle body and the causal body? The answer is many of the disharmony, discomfort, and even the illness that happens in the physical body may have its roots in the subtle body or the causal body. If we don't attend to the root cause of a problem, if we treat only the symptom, then we have not solved the problem, right? What happens is the problem will reappear. Or if you put a band-aid there, it will work out in another way, right? The seed of that problem still exists somewhere. So unless we remove the seed of disharmony wherever it is hiding, it is going to appear and it will manifest somewhere. For example, many of the stress-related symptoms. Many people have low back pain. One of the leading cause of low back pain is because people are stressed. In fact, Eka did a thesis when she was doing her master's degree. She did research on yoga for low back pain. So she identified top six causes for low back pain, and one of them is people are stressed. So stress is in the mind, but it has very significant effect on the body. Right? Now, if we treat only the low back, but if you don't attend to the root cause, if you don't get rid of the stress in the mind, guess what? We are just numbing the low back, numbing the body from the pain. For example, suppose somebody says, oh, I put my finger in fire, it hurts. And if somebody gives you the solution, don't worry. I'll make sure you don't feel the pain anymore. Let me give you an ointment. I think it's called Novocaine. If you put ointment there, it will desensitize all the tactile nerves so that you will not experience anything. And you can happily keep your finger in the fire. Would you like the solution? No way, right? Because if you keep the finger in fire and if you are just numb to that sensation, then there are more disastrous consequences later. In other words, that pain is actually a gift. It's a gift. It's alerting us that if I don't change something, then sooner or later the problem is going to become bigger. So putting a band-aid or numbing ourselves is not the solution. We have to make some fundamental change. Some fundamental change at the root cause level. In the Yoga Sutra, Patanjali says, Heyam Dukkham Anagatam. That means destroy the seeds of disharmony wherever they are, even before they sprout. The seeds are lurking. The seeds of disharmony are lurking in one of the three Shriras. It might be invisible. It may not be in the physical body. It's lurking somewhere. It's like only when we want to clean our home, we suddenly realize, oh my God, there was a lot of dust that is hiding under the carpet. Before that, we never even knew there's so much of disharmony gathered, so many years of disharmony. Only when you lift the carpet, you're shocked. Wow, there's so much of dust that is hiding. So like that, when we go deeper and deeper in yoga, we actually get in touch with some of those unpleasant things that we have to flush it out of the system. We have to remove that from the system. And that is how we can ferret out all the root cause, the seeds of the disharmony that are hiding wherever they are. Okay, so I hope I've given a good sales pitch to understand about the three bodies. Okay, now let us look at the definition of the three bodies, what Shankara says. But before I quote the verses from the Tattva Bodha, I'll just briefly give why the Sukshma Shrira and the Karma Shrira, they have a separate place. It is like whatever aspect of our physical existence that we can sense to our five senses, that belongs to Sthula Shrira. It's the physical body. Anything that we can see, hear, taste, smell, or touch, any of these five sensations with which we can sense any aspect of our physical existence, it belongs to the Sthula Shrira. That is the physical body. And whenever there is some physical discomfort, we can attend to that at the body level as well. It will provide some relief. For example, physical therapy focuses entirely on the physical body. And whatever is unseen, in other words, which cannot be sensed by the five senses, it falls into either Sukshma Sharira or Karma Sharira. For example, the mind. The mind is something, all of us have a mind. Right? We think, therefore we have a mind. I think there's a saying here, I think, therefore I am. In fact, in yoga it's different. I am, therefore I think. You see? I am, because if the I am, that identity is not there, then we can't even operate this instrument, this device called the mind that can be no thought. So the point is, we all think, therefore we have a mind. And we have intellect. Intelligence. Shankara describes the intellect, buddhi, as nishchayatmika buddhi. That means a decision maker. You are given two choices, good or bad, and then you say, I decide to do this. The entity which is within us, that when we are presented with a buffet of options, and it makes a decision, I'm going to choose that. For example, if you go to a buffet and you have a choice, junk food, nutritious food, right? Now, what decision do we make? On some days, we are yogi. On some days, we could be bhogi, right? So each day, the intellect works differently. But yet, there is a decision maker there. In that moment, it makes a decision. So that entity, that intellect, resides in the subtle body. The mind, intellect, and there are 15 other elements that reside in the sacrifice. You look at it. And Karana Sharira, what is that entity? The causal body. Let me give an example. The same situation when two people confront the situation. Perhaps it's the challenge that they are both facing. Let's take a concrete example. Suppose we are sitting on a flight, supposed to take off, and suddenly we hear the announcement, oh, it's going to get delayed by 1 hour. And you see many different reactions. Right? Everyone is in the same place, all the passengers in the same place. But different people react differently. Some people are calm, centered. Some people are happy. Oh, I can read my book a little longer. Some people start yelling and screaming. You see, there are different people who respond to the same situation differently. So what is it within us that creates different instincts, instinctually we react under the same situation? What is it that makes us different? Those are called samskaras and vasanas. Samskaras and vasanas. Samskaras means the habits that have been etched in our mind, habitual tendencies. For example, every day we wake up and immediately we brush our teeth. So that's a samskara. We do it in autopilot, like a robo, we go and do it. It's not that it's giving me great joy. Oh, I look forward to brushing my teeth. Nobody says that. We just do it mechanically, right? So these habitual tendencies are called samskaras. By habit we do. And there's also something called vasana, and we will see what that is a little later. They are similar to samskaras. So all these reside in the Karana Sharira. And it is said that, now how many of us are aware of the law of karma? Law of karma. What you sow, so shall you receive. Right? That is the law of karma. According to the yoga philosophy, Patanjali says in the Yoga Sutra that Satimule Tatvipako Jati Ayu Bhoga. Depending on the karma, the seeds of karma that we carry in our karma tank. This karma tank is actually the karma shaya. We call it karma shaya in the Yoga Sutra. That karma tank, we carry a big load of unripe karma. And they carry over across lifetime. In other words, there are some actions that we do, the reaction is immediate. But there are some actions that we do, it takes some time before we see the results. Right? For example, if we sow a seed, a mango seed, it takes several years before it sprouts and you can actually see the fruit. Right? So like that, there are some actions that we do now, its consequences can be felt only after the 80 lifetime. The yogi becomes very concerned. Oh, I should be a kind person. I should not yell and scream at this person because after 80 lifetime, I'll become a cockroach if I do this. You see, yogi thinks in a long term. After 80 lifetimes, I will suffer, so let me not do it. We have a very myopic view. For 80 lifetimes, it's okay. So far away, I'll handle it. I'll cross the bridge when it comes. That's what we may think, right? But the yogi doesn't think like that. They don't have a very small horizon. They want the enlightenment that is eternal, right? So they have a very far-sighted. They have a long age. They want a peace and happiness that is eternal. So the point here is the consequences that we experience may span multiple lifetimes. Right? So how does that happen? If we are saying that we are shedding the old clothes and acquiring new garments, right? That's what we said. So am I not shedding all my karma? In other words, I should enter a brand new body and mind and karma. Like we should start from zero. But what happens? This is the beauty of the teaching. The yogic wisdom says the garment, the body that we shed is just the physical body. The subtle body, the Sukshma Sharira, and the Karana Sharira, the causal body, we carry that with us. It is something that we cannot discard. We carry that with us in our lifetime. But because they exist in the physical realm, Prakriti, part of Prakriti, not the Purusha, part of the Prakriti, it can be changed, it can be transformed. We can transform or change our Karma Sharira, we can change our Sukshma Sharira and so forth. And that's where the practice of yoga helps. So that's the theme for today. If you want to attend to your physical body, you can do lots of asana. Body becomes light, agile, flexible, etc. Body becomes strong. But what if you want to change your mind? You know, this is very important because when we sit for meditation, suppose the doctor says, okay, you're too stressed. You need to, relieve your stress. What is that? Is meditation. Enthusiasm. A lot of people, when they hear this, okay, let me start meditating every day. So the next morning, what they do is, with full enthusiasm, they jump inside the yoga mat, thinking, oh, I'm going to allow my mind to quiet down and I'm going to experience big tranquility and perhaps enlightenment. So with that big expectation, they sit down, and 2 minutes into the meditation, you know what happens? Oh my God, I'll go back. My knee hurts, I have itching sensation here. And the mind gets so distracted that it's not a meditation anymore, it becomes what is called torture. Right? Mind is so messed up and they don't like the practice of meditation. So what do you do about it? If you want to transform the mind, what should I do? If I want to transform the samskara and the vasana, my habits, what do I do? Would you like to know what to do? So we're going to explore. So before we jump in for the prescription, how to change, transform, modify, mold these three bodies, let us analyze what these three bodies are, the definition of these three, according to Shankara. Adi Shankara defines what is the Sthula Sharira, the physical body, the Sukshma Sharira, which is the subtle body, and the Karana Sharira, which is the causal body. So let's start with the physical body and quote the statement. So Tattva Bodha is a text that is written in prose form, not in poetic form, not in a chanda. It's a prose, like a statement, like Newton's law, for example. When you say every action has an opposite reaction, you don't sing it. That's a statement. Like a Tattva Bodha, it's all statement. So the statement where he defines what a Sthula Sharira is, I'll first state, it's a long statement, and then we will unpack the meaning of it. He says, Panchikrita Panchamaha Bhutaihi Kritam Satkarmya Janyam Sukadukkari Bhogayatanam Shriram Asti Jayate Vardate Viparinamate Apakshiyate Vinashyati iti Shadvikarvata Etat Sthula Shriram. So let us unpack what it means. So Sthula Shriram is comprised of Panchikrita Panchamaha Bhutaihi Kritam. Panchamaha Bhuta are the 5 elements, and by elements we are referring to the model that is presented in Sankhya and Yoga. Elements means we are not talking about the modern science of chemistry. When we say elements, it has a very specific meaning. But when these texts were written, the elements, the Bhutas, they are the earth element, water element, fire element, air element, and the ether or space element. So Shankara says the physical body is that which is comprised of these 5 elements. Panchamaha Bhutaihi Kritam. And then he says, Satkarma Janyam. You can acquire this physical body only if you have done some good deeds. We can all feel good that we have done something good in order to acquire a physical body. We can pat ourselves on that. Something good we have done, right? The blessing that all of us have been endowed with this vehicle called this human body. So, Panchikrita Panchamaha Bhutaihi Kritam Satkarma Janyam and Sukadukkadi Bhogayatanam Shriram. Ayatanam means vehicle. Sukadukkadi Bhogayatanam. This vehicle allows us to experience Sukha and Dukkha. In other words, the ups and downs of life, happiness and pain. Without this body, we cannot experience it. It will all be just a concept. Now, what is it that allows this experience of sukha and dukkha? It is this human body. For example, when we sit on a nice cushion like a sofa, it feels good, sukham, and experiencing sukham. But whereas when we are walking and we step on a thorn, then that pain is experienced as dukkham. It's uncomfortable. So our body allows us to experience sukham and dukkha. Sukha dukkhari yogayatanam shriram. And then he says this physical body has 6 types of change or transformation. 6 aspects of this journey of the physical body. They are asti, means it exists. Jayate, it is born. Physical body is born. Not the self. The self, najayate. It's not born. Whereas the physical body is born. Asti jayate. Vardhate, it grows. As babies, we are very tiny. Now, we are as adults, we are being adulterated. Teacher used to say. As adults, we have grown. We are no longer babies, we have grown. So, the physical body grows. Vardhate. Asti, jayate, vardhate, viparinamate. It changes. For example, 5 years back, I didn't have any gray hair. Now it's different. So there's some change that is happening. Asti, jayate, vardhate, viparinamate. And this apakshiyate. Apakshiyate means at some point there is a decay that happens. In other words, infirmity happens in the physical body. Asti, jayate, vardhate, viparinamate. Vinashyati. Vinashyati means it has an end point where we discard the body, the physical body, like a garment is being discarded. So these are the 6 transformations. Asti, jayate, asti means exists, jayate is born, vardhate grows, viparinamate keeps changing. Asti, jayate, vardhate, viparinamate, apakshiyati, which means it is decaying, and then vinashyati. Vinashyati means it disappears or gets disintegrated. So these are the 6. Vinashyati iti shadvikara. These 6 changes are the characteristics of the physical body. I hope it makes sense, right? So this is how we define the physical body. Any questions on this one?
So the one question, like as an example, say somebody who is doing apunya, but the fact that he has a body means in the previous lifetime he might have done some good things to actually earn this costume.
Yes. So in the balance of punya and papa, like a account. So there is some punya karma that has created the physical body.
One thing that at some point love for you to explain the koshas and the shariras.
In fact, we will study how the kosha model and the 3 shariras are related, and also the 3 states of being, wakefulness, dream, and these things, how they are all related to these 3 bodies. We will see that. So, yeah.
We'll do QAs whenever you give us the QA time, or will not interrupt you otherwise.
So maybe we will have
the protocol.
segment.
I think that's better because like only you control the
I'm just reiterating. The question was, you said the Sukshma Sharira, that is from one lifetime to another. So I was not sure whether it's the Sukshma Sharira or the causal both. Because Sukshma Sharira is mind and intellect is again the percentage may vary because it is depending on what avatara, what you are doing and how you are doing with your karmas. So again, how much of that carries and all that we possibly see later on. But I was not very sure about the Sukshma Sharira versus casual, how much of which carries.
We carry both according to the scripture.
But the physical nothing we carry.
Yeah. Of course, all of these exist in the physical world.
Right.
So what makes the Sura Sharira different is they can be sensed by the 5 senses. Whereas the reminder, the Sukshma Sharira and the Karma Sharira, we cannot easily touch, taste, smell, or see. You have to infer. You can use your intellect to infer, oh, it is there. I can feel it is there. I can sense my mind. I can sense my interest. We can become sensitive to that.
all that behavioral benefit from. I want to do something. I want to do it better. I want to make it better. I want to increase my strength. That is how some of the modifications that keep coming from the Sthula Shrira, from generation to generation. But it may be just happening to somebody else, but not to that self. But I'm just trying to correlate the metamorphosis or the evolution. One part of evolution of the Sthula Shrira.
So all that happens, the inspiration, the calling of the heart to do this. Okay, I want to do something good. I want to be kind, compassionate, courageous, strong, all that. We're actually changing our karma sharira. What is it? My calling in this lifetime.
Yeah, I have one point and one example and one question. So my question is, are these two the Sukshma Karana Vedantic terms? What is the equivalent term in the Sankhya?
So that's a little bit, in Sankhya they don't use the distinction between Sukshma Sharira and the Karma Sharira. In Sankhya, so briefly, there are three darshanas or three systems of philosophy that inquire into the nature of the self. There are Sankhya, Yoga, and Vedanta. And the earliest of the three, the first that came, that was propounded, was Sankhya by sage Kapila Maharshi. And the text that he wrote called Sankhya Sutras is no longer with us. But the earliest text of Sankhya that we have is by a great scholar by name Ishwara Krishna. Not the Bhagavad Gita. It's Ishwara Krishna. He wrote a text called Sankhya Karika. That is available. So when they talk about the three bodies doctrine during the Vedantic philosophy, they map the Sthula, Sukshma, and the Karma Sharira with the 24 tattva of the Sankhya. So the first 17 of the 24 tattva belong to the realm of the Sukshma and Karma Sharira.
One of the when you said that, one point came to my mind is that people from Bharat or that broader Bharat region are more susceptible to gaining weight and diabetes and so on. And one of the article I was reading is because it is the response to famine which happened during more than 100 years back. So probably that Sukshma and Sthula Shrira is carrying over that information where the body in case of famines used to accumulate a lot of fat when it was available, but now there are no famines, and it's not able to handle properly. Something like that I read, and maybe that is linked to the Sukshma.
Interesting. Maybe it's etched in our what we can now say DNA.
Yes.
And perhaps all the Karma Sharira, those information is encoded. As in computer we talk about encoding as zeros and ones. Perhaps that's how it's encoded in the DNA, the Karma Sharira. But this analogy is given. If you think of the physical body as a hardware, the Sukshma Sharira is the software. Right? And the Karma Sharira is the settings that you give. For example, in your computer, you can set if you move the mouse like this, does the cursor move tiny bit or a lot? You can actually set all. So in the Karma Sharira, you can play around the knobs or the settings. If somebody yells at you, you're going to get a little angry or not angry. You see how sensitive you want to be. All the settings you can poke around in the Karma Sharira. So that's a nice analogy. Hardware, software, and settings.
Only addition to that is in the entire discourse of the various elements of the Sharira and all that. With Darwin's theory, however weak it is, there is absolutely no mention of the evolutionary trajectory. Like musicians try to become a better musician. Somebody may have got a janma and some karma and they got into that, but the whole evolution, the sculpture style become better sculpture and getting all that benefit from previous. That kind of carryover that is nowhere mentioned in the entire sutras. It's just an observation.
In fact, especially when we talk about prodigy, very young, 2 or 3 years old, they display extraordinary talent for music. We have heard about names, people who are exceptional and prodigy. So the way the yoga philosophy, the wisdom of Vedanta, how that would explain is through this karma. Perhaps they already have laid the foundation in different lifetimes before. So it is not just one tiny, this particular lifetime, but the life journey across multiple lifetimes. So that was physical body, Sthula Sharira. Shall we move on to the next one? What is it? Sukshma Sharira. Sukshma Sharira is defined as Apanchikrita Panchamahabhutaihi Kritam. I quote the statement first and then we'll unpack. Apanchikrita Panchamahabhutaihi Kritam. Satkarmajanyam. Again, this is the same. Satkarmajanyam. Sukha Dukkhari Bhoga Sadhanam. This is slightly different. Sukha Dukkhari Bhoga Sadhanam. And then it is a constituent 17 elements that constitute the Sukshma Sharira. They are Pancha Jnanendriyani, Pancha Karmendriyani, Pancha Pranadaya. They are going to repeat them. They are translated in a moment. So Pancha Jnanendriyani, Pancha Karmendriyani, Pancha Pranadaya, Manascha Ekam, Buddhischa Eka. Manas and Buddhi. Manascha Ekam, Buddhischa Eka. Saptadasha Kalabihi, these 70, Saptadasha and 70, Saptadasha Kalabihi, Yaha Tishtati, Tat Sukshma Sharira. So let us unpack the meaning of this statement. He says, the Sukshma Sharira is composed of Apanchikrita Panchamahabhutaihi. I'm not going to go into what is Panchikritam, Panchikaram, etc. Later on, if we have time, we will explore that. But he says, the building block of Sukshma Sharira is the pure aspect of the Panchamahabhuta. If you take the pure earth, pure space, pure water, where you don't have any trace of the other 4 elements, this entity, the purest form of the Mahabhuta, is called Apanchikrita Panchamahabhuta. In fact, in Sankhya, it has another name. It is called Tanmatra. How many of you have heard of this word? Tanmatra. Tanmatra means Tat Matra. Tanmatra. Matra means only. That alone. Tat Matra literally means that alone, not mixed up with the others. It is the purest expression of that. So let's take a step back. Let's go back to the physical, the Sthula Sharira, the physical body. It is comprised of Panchikrita Panchamahabhuta. In other words, it's comprised of, many of the translations, they use the word grossified. They are not the pure elements. They're grossified. You take the earth element and you put a little bit of the other, like a compound element. It's not the pure, it's the compound element. And the way in which we think about it, let me give an example. Suppose you want to measure the distance or if you want to measure the thickness of, say, a proton. A proton subatomic particle, very tiny. Will you use your foot ruler to measure the thickness of a proton? No way. I hope it's clear that it's not a good way to measure the thickness of something. Or if you want to measure the distance between here and say Australia, will you use a foot ruler? You need to use something that makes sense in that measurement. You need the measuring device to be subtler than what you are trying to measure. Okay? It has to be subtler. So that is why the Sukshma Sharira contains subtler aspects. It is not the compound form, it's the pure form that can measure, it can sense things in the physical form. So it's a subtle form. Apanchikrita Panchamahabhutaihi Satkarmajanyam. That means you acquire the Sukshma Sharira only if you have done some good deeds. Sukha Dukkhadi Bhoga Sadhana. It is the instrument that gives experiences of Sukha and Dukkha. Similar to what we saw in the physical body as well. So Sukshma Sharira up to this point is very similar to the physical body. And now the change is as follows. He says there are 17 constituent elements in the anatomy of the subtle body. Anatomy of the subtle body has 17 constituents. What are they? They are the 5 jnanendriyas, that means the organs of senses, like what we see, hear, taste, smell, or touch. It's not the physical eye, because that belongs to the physical body, but it is the sense of behind the eye. What is that sensor? The sight that we see. What is it? What are the sensors that allows us to sense the sound? Auditory sensors. So those are the elements of the Sukshma Sharira. So the 5 organs of sensor and 5 organs of action. Pancha Karmendriya and then Pancha Pranadaya. The 5 prana. Prana is the energy that circulates in the system, the life energy. There are 5 of them. And they are different. Why there are 5? You need some energy to assimilate one type of energy to expel the toxins out of the system. Another type of energy for the circulation of the blood, for example, jnana, that is called jnana. And another type of energy for the digestive process to take place, that is called the samana. And then there's the udana, where it powers the voice box, and so ut means to raise. Anything, the prana that moves up is utana, udana. And jnana is the circulation prana. So there are 5 prana. So the 5 jnanendriyas, 5 karmendriyas, the 5 prana, and you have counted 15 so far. And the 16th and 17th are the manas and the buddhi. Manascha ekam, buddhischa ekam. Manas is the mind, and the buddhi is the intellect. So these 17 together are called Sukshma Sharira. Sukshma Sharira. And you cannot directly sense them. Right? You cannot see your mind. You cannot see your intellect. But whatever happens in the Sukshma Sharira has visible effect on the physical body. Right? For example, the intellect decides, okay, now I am going to this talk, or now I am going to this movie. Then the body follows the decision that is made by the Sukshma Sharira. So, although we cannot see it, it doesn't mean that it does not exist. Okay? So it is there. Only thing is our senses cannot perceive. So that is the Sukshma Sharira. And there are a lot of practices in yoga that assist with the Sukshma Sharira, how to keep the Sukshma Sharira healthy and happy. For example, just like in the modern anatomy and physiology, we cut the body. You know what, the word anatomy is very interesting. Anatomy literally means to cut. You know the meaning of anatomy and how it comes from Sanskrit? Actually, it comes from Sanskrit. Anyone knows? Would you like to share? What is it? Exactly. So the point is, the English word atom means that which cannot be cut. At the time when the word atom was coined, it is the smallest particle that cannot be cut further. Of course, now we talk about subatomic and proton, neutron, etc. But at the time when the word was coined, atom is that entity which cannot be cut further. The word Atma comes from the same root, Atma. Atma means that you cannot cut that. Nainam chintanti shastrani, Bhagavad Gita does. Nainam chintanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavata. You cannot use the weapon to cut the self. It's a whole entity. It cannot be divided. So, Atma means that which cannot be cut. The opposite of that means that which can be cut. And the opposite of Atma is Anatma. Anatma. A plus Atma becomes Anatma. Sanskrit roots and Sangeet becomes Anatma. The word anatomy comes from Anatma. Because anatomy, what do? We dissect and we study how the whole physical body is organized and all. So that which can be cut, we infer by dissecting it. That is anatomy. So just like we have the physical anatomy, we identify the different organs, like the heart, the lungs, the liver, the kidney, pancreas, etc. There are so many organs of the physical body. There is an anatomy of the subtle body as well. There is an anatomy of the subtle body. That is why yogis, when they talk about the nadis are the tubes or the pumping system that carries the prana, which resides in the subtle body, just of pancha prana. And in the pranic circuit, you have all these highway junctions, such as the chakras and the marma points. All these reside in the Sukshma Sharira. So yogis have gone in great detail to map out the anatomy of the Sukshma Sharira. Perhaps we are familiar with the word chakra, right? Different chakras in the body, the subtle body, they reside in the subtle body. Okay, so that is the Sukshma Sharira. What are some practices in yoga that will help with Sukshma Sharira? What can you think of?
Meditation.
Meditation, yes, because it quiets the mind. Anything else?
Pranayama, bandhas.
Yes, pranayama, because we regulate the movement of prana. Prana resides in the subtle body. So when we do pranayama, we are actually helping the circulatory system. More brisk circulation of prana will be energized. You wanted to say something?
I was going to say pranayama.
Pranayama. And there's various different types of pranayama, including bandha and mudras and so forth. So they redirect the prana in different ways. Just like if you want to turn on these lights or turn off these lights, the switch for that light somewhere else. You don't want to ban that light. Although it manifests here, the way to control it is elsewhere. The switch is elsewhere. Like that, the prana is flowing through the body, but if you want to control how much prana you want to direct to, say, the upper one from the heart center or in the head region, there are secret switches in the body. In your hands, for example, there are some switches, and that's why yogis practice mudra. By various hand positions, you can actually redirect the prana to go in different other areas of the body. It's a profound science, a very amazing science of where these switches are located. They're secret ones. They're also called marmasthana. That means secret points where you apply gentle pressure, you activate that switch, and prana elsewhere will start flowing, or you can even block prana in certain parts of the body. So these are all practices associated with the Sukshma Sharira. Another practice that is associated with the Sukshma Sharira is anything that we do with our five senses. There are eye exercises. Some of you have done eye exercise. No? Pranayama is a great example. Or even the muscle, the optical muscle. It's going to look at the tip of the nose and then look at something very far, and without moving the head, look at something on your left side, right side, up, down. All that we are energizing the subtle body, the vision. And there's a sutra of Patanjali, Vishayavati va pravritti utpanna manasa sthiti nibandhini. When we make our organs of senses, that is the jnanendriyas, more sensitive, it actually helps us in the part of yoga. Yogis become very keenly sensitive. If they eat even a tiny bit of junk food, that's enough. Like little bit of poking with the fire is enough. I don't need to wait for it to become like an emergency situation. And that is why when we sharpen our sensitivity, we don't wait till any disharmony becomes an illness. We take care of it when it is in the subtle form, when it is the subtle body. It hasn't even come into manifestation in the physical body. We attend to it in the subtle form. And in Ayurveda, for example, they actually can diagnose, oh, if you don't alter your lifestyle, the doctor, the Vaidya might tell the patient, you will experience diabetes in 6 months. So when you wait till it happens, and when it enters the physical body, it takes much more effort to remove. When you have a big banyan tree, it's difficult to chop it off. Whereas in the seed form, you can just wipe it away. So it's the subtle form, attend to it. Don't wait till it becomes very big. Let me share a little story about 15 years back. I wanted to learn a little bit of Ayurveda, especially Nadi Pariksha, just by listening to a pulse to understand what's going on in the body, not just the physical body, but also the subtle side. So I called one a very famous Ayurvedic physician from India. At that time, I was living in Houston, Texas. So I called him. His name was Mr. Singh. He is known Ayurvedic practitioner and also a teacher. So I called him and made an appointment to meet him on a Saturday morning. So at the appointed time, he asked me to come at 7 a.m. I go to his home and knock on his door. He didn't remember that he had an appointment. He thought I was a patient. So the moment he let me in, he said, "Don't tell me what's wrong with you. I will find out what's wrong." That's what he said. He thought I was a patient. And then I kept my mouth shut, and he started listening to my pulse. We were doing the Nadi Pariksha. And then for 2 full minutes, he was like closing his eyes, instant focus and concentration, trying to listen to something. And I was sweating a little bit. Oh my God, what is he going to find? Right? And after 2 minutes, he opened his eyes, looked at me with like a very fierce gaze. And he was kind of shaking. What is he finding? And then he said, "There is nothing wrong with you. Why did you come?" That's why I came. So when you think about it, nobody goes to a doctor. "Oh my God, doctor, I'm feeling so healthy today. Please find out what's wrong with me." Nobody says. The moment something is wrong, we rush to a Vaidya or a doctor. In fact, Ayurveda is supposed to be the opposite. A healthy person, to bring more exuberant health, you use the principles of Ayurveda. And it also has therapy and so forth. But the main emphasis is the lifestyle change, so that exuberant expression can happen. So anyway, I learned the Nadi Pariksha from him for several months. It was a very eye-opening experience. So the point is, Sukshma Shrira, the seeds that will manifest at a later point of time in the Sukshma Shrira can be diagnosed. It's an amazing thing. Amazing. It's like somebody gets angry all the time. Perhaps you can guess, maybe after 10 years, that anger will express itself in the body, maybe high blood pressure. There are so many ways in which that disharmony in the mind will express itself in the body. You can make a guess. So that is the Sukshma Shrira. And all the, nowadays there is also emphasis on sound therapy, light therapy, and all. They all come under the Sukshma Shrira therapy. It affects the subtle body. You are managing the subtle body with all these different interventions. That is the subtle body. Any questions on the subtle body? Yeah.
So, is the subtle body the only reason for us to feel any experience? Because the Sukshma Shrira is just a vehicle, but all the experiences seem to happen in the subtle. Is that how we should perceive it?
Actually, the experience comes because of the presence of the Purusha. That's in the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, that's what's the 13th chapter. It says, Karya Karana Kartritve Hetu Prakriti Ruchyate Purusha Sukha Dukkhana Bhoktritve Hetu Ruchyate. That means, when you divide the entire universe into 2 categories, namely anime or living entities versus non-living, which is also called Jada or the Prakriti. That is the model given in Sankhya. Vedanta, another model, says both are one and the same, but let's not step into that right now. So when you look at living and non-living, for example, I reside in the body. The body is a vehicle that is animated by the self that resides in it. So the verse that I just quoted says, Karya Karana Kartritve. Karya Karana means cause and effect. In the physical realm, you see only cause and effect. But the experience of Sukha and Dukkha happens because there is a person there. Person, that Purusha, who is sitting there and experiencing it, that is the one that powers the experience of Sukha.
I see. So the way I understood, which is like the Sukshma Sharira presents this image, which is like, hey, this is a sad situation, this is a thing, to serve the Purusha, for the Purusha to, okay, this is a movie and all. But the actual sad and the recipe was made in the Sukshma.
Yes, in other words, the scene was created in the Sukshma.
Right.
Let me tie that together. How that works is, suppose we see a tree, we see an object. A tree is a physical entity, it is a realm, physical realm. You see a tree, are we seeing the tree directly? When we look at the process of how it works, it's an indirect perception, because what happens is the light particles, the photons from that tree, they enter this optical apparatus, what we call the eye. It enters the eye, and then there is a image of that which is created in the back of the eye, the retina. In fact, it's an inverted image, inverted tree. An image of that is created in the back of the eye, and there are optical nerves that sense that image, and the optical nerve presents that image to the mind. In the yoga, the mind is called the chitta. So in the screen of the chitta, an image is presented, and the Purusha, the self that is sitting in the body, is constantly watching only the scene that's created in the mind. It is not watching directly outside. It's simply watching this TV called the chitta. And the scene that is created, it has a name. A technical name in yoga is called pratyaya. Pratyaya is the snapshot of the image that you see on the chitta in this instant of time, that is illumined by the light of consciousness. That is the pratyaya. So the thing is, what happens when we see a tree is, we're not seeing it directly. It is like you are sitting in a closed room with a TV. There's a tree outside, and there's a surveillance camera. And the image of the tree you see on the TV, and the Purusha is sitting and watching the TV and inferring that there's a tree outside. So what the Purusha is seeing is not directly outside, just seeing the TV constantly. In fact, my teacher used to give this Purusha is like the Indian householder. They don't do anything, they just keep sitting and watching TV. The hard work is done by the lady of the house.
The mind and all this stuff. So it's not only the image, but the Sukshma Sharira also adds background music and all the other drama also, like a tree means the good or bad, and all this condition is also with all the masala is added.
Like this, the surveillance camera is your the sensor that receives the image, the photon. So it also resides in the Sukshma Sharira. That's your eye, the optical nerve, and so forth. That is the surveillance camera. And the mind is your TV screen, the chitta, the TV screen. And when we sleep and when we are experiencing a dream, there is no tree, but there's a tree in the mind. There's no tiger, but the experience of a tiger is chasing you, right? So you don't need something outside. Your TV will manufacture some scenery to you, right? This is called vikalpa. Shabda jnananupadi vastu shunya vikalpa. Vastu shunya. There is no object there, but still the mind manufactures something, like a dream or imagination. But by the way, this is useful because for anything to manifest, it should first appear in the Sukshma Sharira, and then only it can come into the physical world. For example, before iPhone, it was just an idea in Steve Jobs' mind. It was a vikalpa. But he made that into a reality. So the dream, although there is no corresponding physical object, it can come into the physical manifestation with the power of the will and with the karmendriya, it can make it happen. But the point is, in order to see a scenery in the mind, in the dream world, it appears everything is real. But there's no actual object outside. So the point is, the Sukshma Sharira can still manufacture the scenery. You don't need a physical world, you can create your own movie. So that is the point of the Sukshma Sharira. And you are right. You can impose your own perceptions, and you can see a tree on the TV and say, oh, this reminds me of my childhood days where we had a similar tree at home. nostalgia can happen. So you're not just watching the tree dispassionately, you're adding your own baggage to all that can happen.
And it can go fast like us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Deja vu, that can
It's all conditioning. Our mouth masala, and then the Indian householder is watching the TV. This is the one dish that is so.
In fact, Patanjali says that in Yoga Sutra, Purusha does nothing else but simply watching the scenery of the Pratyaya all the time. The Sutra, do you remember that, Srinidhi? Okay, in the sequence of sutras, I'll be able to figure it out. Bhoga apavadrakam drishyam, vishesha vishesha lingamatra lingani gunaparvani, drashta, yeah, this one. Drashta, drishimatraha, shuddhaha, api pratyaya anupashyaha. Drashta. Drashta means the seer, the self. Drishimatraha. Only thing that the seer does is to see. Not doing anything active, just to see. Pratyaya anupashyaha. The pratyaya keeps on seeing again and again, watching the movie. Full movie goer. The Purusha is nothing but a movie watcher. By the way, it doesn't mean that the Purusha is lazy or that the Purusha is passive. In order to, because I have to mention this, otherwise we think that the self is so lazy, couch potato, just watching the Super Bowl game on the TV, just getting entertained. But that's not the model that's present in the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita gives a beautiful analogy. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that the self is like the sun. The sun is so far away, yet the mere presence of the sun forces activity on the planet. Yatha prakashayati ekaha. Prakashayati illuminates. Yatha prakashayati ekaha. That one sun. Yatha prakashayati ekaha. Krishnam lokam imam ravihi. Kshetram chetri tatha krishnam. Prakashayati bharata is the word. I think this is from the 13th chapter. So just the presence of the sun forces activity on this planet. Like that, the presence of the Purusha first the activity in the physical body. All the physiological processes happen because of the presence of the self. The moment the self exits this body, the moment of death, all the physiological processes come to a grinding point. So Purusha is not just passive. The presence of the Purusha is what powers the whole system. So in that sense, Purusha is it's an active presence. You can think of it as an active presence. Not a passive, not just a consumer, eating, thinking, watching TV, but the presence is what makes things happen.
So can we think that this entire clock is created only because of the Purusha?
Exactly. In fact, Mataji, in the very next sutra, it says, Adartha eva drishyasya atma. The whole physical universe, the Prakriti, exists not for its sake, but for the sake of the Purusha. The body exists for the sake of the self. It is not the other way. Many times we do the opposite. We do everything to keep the body happy. Okay, let me bring more comfort. Let me get a home, better car. The body is getting more and more happy, more and more comfortable. But many times we become comfortably unhappy. And there's still some unhappiness inside, but the body is comfortable. But inside there is some distress, pain, discomfort. Okay, so that was up to Sukshma Shakti.
Yeah, correlation here. So you have conscious mind, subconscious mind, unconscious. Right? It ties to the three bodies.
In fact, that three words, conscious, subconscious, unconscious, they have very precise definition in psychology. I don't recall the exact definition of that. But yes, these parallels have been given, and it's a very beautiful book that explores the parallels between the Yoga Sutra and the three bodies doctrine and this modern physiology, psychology. And that book was authored by Desikacharya. Desikacharya, the son of one of the legendary yogis in Himachal. He wrote that book in 1970. I don't know the name of it. I have to let you know. Sure. So I will share that later. It's so fascinating how we draw parallels between Patanjali's the psychology that he presents, that second chapter of the Yoga Sutra with Freud and Jung and many of these patterns.
I think in the brother Upanishad, it goes into a lot of detail into the sleep state and the various consciousness states.
Yes, in the Mandukya Upanishad also.
Yeah, but Mandukya is
Mandukya.
And in fact, we talk about which state it was. So the point is, in our waking state, the person who is experiencing the waking world is using the Karma Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, and the Sthula Sharira. All three are being used. In the dream state, we are not using the Sthula Sharira. We have parked the body, we have parked the car and enjoying the scenery. We park the body, and then we are using the scenery of the TV, the Chitta, the Pratyaya, everything is going on. So we are using the Karma Sharira and the Sukshma Sharira, but not the Sthula Sharira. So let me get ahead of myself and make the next statement. Namely, in deep sleep, we discard even the Sukshma Sharira. And we have only, we reside only in the realm of the Karma Sharira. In deep sleep, Karma Sharira. We haven't seen what is Karma Sharira yet. You will see that in a moment. But you can see this parallel. When we are in deep sleep, we are just embodied by the Karma Sharira, but not the other. We are part of those two bodies.
at the time the pratyaya is empty. Or no,
What we mean by empty? It is not empty. It is covered.
cover.
It's like if you have a mirror, you cover the mirror with some black, so that it's not reflected. You are still seeing the mirror. It's not that you threw away the mirror, you transcended the mirror. Mirror is still there. You covered it. That's the difference between samadhi and deep sleep. In samadhi, you transcend even the karma sharira. In fact, Shankara says that. Sukshma karma sharirat yatiriktaha. The self is something that is beyond all the three bodies. In deep sleep, just because we experience some bliss, it doesn't mean that we have become great yogis, that we are in samadhi. Because the karma sharira, you see, karma sharira is made up of ignorance, avidya, ignorance. You see how that is. So ignorance is nothing but the covering. You cover that mirror so that you don't see anything. There's no scenery that is being presented. Or if you're watching a TV, scenery is still going on, but you close with the screen. The putra is still watching, but it's simply being covered. That is a model of that.
The ashaya is still there, the settings.
All the settings are still there, exactly. It's like when you power off a device, there's no prana running in it. When you switch the device on, when you board an airplane, you have to power off your device. And after the aircraft lands, you switch on your iPhone or iPad. Hopefully, all your data is still there.
The karma share is still there.
Karma shares are still there. It makes sense, right? Yeah.
So you wonderfully explained how the imbalance in the Sukshma Sharira eventually manifests in the Sthula Sharira. But on the flip side, because we have the easiest access to the Sthula Sharira, we work on it to keep it healthy, right? But every now and then, like a good example is, okay, I'm practicing yoga, but right now, like my hand hurts, my calf muscle hurts. So how do we look at that? Like, can we always trace it back to something into, as you said, like, fix the root cause, or can we isolate the issue in the Sthula Sharira and do something about it? What should be our thought?
That's a good question. You know what Patanjali says? Patanjali says the root cause of all the problems is studying the karma sharira. And in fact, there's only one problem. It manifests in a variety of ways. I've heard of this, I think it's called guacamole. You suppress one and it squirts out somewhere else, and then you suppress that and it comes out like a guacamole. This is the mouse that is coming out now. So the point is, there's only one root problem that manifests in a different variety of pain either in the mind level or in the body level. That problem is Drashtu Dishyayo Heya Hetu. That means the lack of identification of who I am. We don't know who we are, and we think what I am not as myself. When I think I am the body, for example, when I say, "Oh, I am hungry," is that a true statement? When we examine that statement, I am hungry. But if you want to state that same expression in a more accurate way, we should say, my mind is reporting that my body is hungry. That's how I think Ramana Maharshi used to speak to people. Because I am hungry means what does it say? My identity is hunger. Or if you introduce, if somebody asks, who are you? Oh, I'm an engineer. Is that a true statement? It's simply the role that we are playing now in this drama of life. But that's not the truth of who we are. But when we put that role on ourselves and imagine I am that. It's like when we're watching a movie, we're becoming so engrossed in the movie. When the hero is losing a battle, we cry. When the hero is victorious, we are elated. So like that, going through the ups and downs in the drama, forgetting who we are, being so entrenched in the not who we are for it, thinking that I am that. That is the root cause of everything. But to come back to your question, the point is there's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita that talks about it. So should I attend to the physical body or the subtle body? Because as you rightly pointed out, we cannot directly jump into the subtle body because the mind has been misbehaving for so long. You cannot imagine the mind to be quiet on day one. Oh mind, please be quiet. Doesn't listen to us. It's from Abhyas. So the Bhagavad Gita, that's the verse 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it says, Arurukshor Muner Yoga. Arurukshor Muner Yoga Karma Karana Muchate. Yoga Rudhasya Tatyeva Shama Karana Muchate. I mean, Arurukshor, a beginning student of yoga, should start from the outside to the inside. Because they have access to the body. They have more control over the body than they have control over the mind. So, beginning student of yoga should start from the outside and go deeper and deeper inside. Whereas an adept yogi, who is called Yoga Rudha, Yoga Rudhasya Tatyeva Shama Karana Muchate. They should start from inside, and once they fix the root cause, everything outside will get naturally fixed. So that is the recipe that is given in the Bhagavad Gita. And of course, in the Ashtanga Yoga of Patanjali, we do all of them together simultaneously. So in everyday practice, there's a little bit of asana, there's a little bit of pranayama, there's a little bit of meditation. So holistic practice.
Is that single thing is the karma that's avidya, Klesha Moha?
Exactly. So that leads us to the next Karana Shrira. What is the definition of Karana Shrira? Would you like to know how Adi Shankara defined Karana Shrira? Because this is the most mysterious of the three. We understand the Sthula Sharira, okay, we see it. We understand the mind, intellect, and all that. We have an idea of what it is. We have the idea of the five senses, etc. So what is this very mysterious entity called Karana Sharira, which is the causal body? In some texts, they also call it the astral body, and they give all sorts of meanings. But what is it? How do you define it? How do you pinpoint it? And the definition that Adi Shankara gives to the Tattva Bodha is, would you like to know the definition? He says, Anirvachya Anadi Avidya Rupam. Anirvachya Anadi Avidya Rupam. Satkarma Satswarupa Ajnanam. Satswarupa Ajnanam. Nirvikalpaka Rupam. Yet Tishtati Tat Karana Shariram. So what is Karana Sharira? The causal body is, it is caused by avidya. Avidya or ignorance. Ignorance of what? Sat Swarupa Ajnana. The lack of knowledge of who I really am. I don't know who I am. When self-realization happens, that's the goal of yoga, all spiritual practices. Then Karma Shrira gets light. So when we feel the physical body as light, that's good health, right? Like that, when the Karma Shrira feels light, when you have unburdened the Karma Shrira of all these Karma Shrira, then there's a mental clarity. The settings are a default. You don't have to play around. So we are able to manage the world in a way that is natural to us. And I'll give some examples how to think about this concept. So before we step into that, let me talk about how to keep these bodies healthy is by keeping them light. One of the definitions of good health is if the body feels so light that you forget the body, then you are healthy. It's a very profound definition. If you forget your body, you are healthy. And I'm sure all of us have experienced this, right? Let me give an example. It is only when we have a headache that we are constantly reminded that I have a headache. Otherwise, we don't constantly tell our, I have a head, I have a head, I have a head, I have a left big toe. But everybody thinking consciously about a left big toe in this moment. It is healthy, therefore we have forgotten, we have transcended. But if we stub our toe and if you sit here, it constantly keeps its presence felt. Our mind will be tormented by the discomfort of the left big toe. So our body is healthy when we become so light, not the actual weight of the body, but how we feel it. It's so light that we forget it. This is called Videha. Bhava Pratyayo Videha Prakriti Layana is a sutra of Patanjali. Videha. That means you forget the body, then you are truly healthy. Like that, when we forget our Karma Shrira, we are truly in a place where we are unfettered, we are free. So let us come back to this Karma Shrira. What is this avidya? How does ignorance cause the Karma Shrira, the causal body, to form? And the analogy that is given is a very famous analogy that I'm sure many of you have heard before. This is called Rajju Sarpa Bhranti. In fact, in the Radhasparami, the last verse, you see that Rajju Sarpa Bhranti. So Rajju Sarpa, how many of us know what Rajju Sarpa Bhranti? Does it think about it? Would you like to share what it is?
The dawn or sunset when he sees some object which appears like a snake, and the body and the mind reacts fight and fight more, but with light of torch, which is vidya, and one sees that it's a harmless rope, and then there is no fight in the fight. So
that is exactly what Rajju Sarpa Bhranti. Sarpa means snake. Rajju means rope. So there's a harmless rope sitting there. And somebody is walking in the forest and they see this thing and they mistake that for a snake. And they get afraid. So this thought that danger there creates responses in the system, flight or fight. Heart starts beating faster, mind starts strategizing. Okay, let me go on top of the tree and perch myself there. I'll wait for the snake to run away. And then I will continue my journey. And the body and mind do many things in response to that misperception. And when the sun rises, suddenly they discover, oh my God, it's a harmless rope. I don't need to be worried. So that we relieve that comes. And they move on. So the point is, Karma Shrira is built upon a big sequence of this avidya. See, we have a model in our head that is different from reality. And that makes us respond to events and situations in life. Remember, that's what Karma Shrira is. It drives our impulse. If somebody responds, if somebody tells us a rude remark, suppose somebody comes and says, oh, you are an idiot. How do we respond to it? Do we tell them, no, you are the idiot? Like, do them do we engage in that kind of thing, or do we get so hurt, or do we, do we give them more insight, or like a Brahmanyani? Oh, I am Brahman, you are also Brahman. Nobody is an idiot. Just calm, centered. How do we respond to such a situation? Right? It depends on the model of the world that we have in our head, whether we think it is a rope or a snake. Right? Now, here is one profound truth from Sankhya. This is very, very profound. In fact, if you forget everything that we discussed today, it's okay, it doesn't matter. But remember these two statements that I'm going to make. Very, very important. Are you ready for it? Yeah. Okay. So, what Sankhya says is, all your troubles in the mind, all your negative emotions in the mind, is because your model of the truth is different from the universal truth, actual truth. You are looking at a rope and thinking of it as a snake. This is a very bold statement. Very bold statement. It says, whenever you are feeling miserable, that means you are not looking at things as they are. As I say, the beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. You are looking at it wrong. Steve Jobs made the statement. You are holding the phone wrong. Your Sankhya says you are beholding the universe wrong. You are looking at it in a way that is different from truth. That is the first bold statement. So whenever you are feeling miserable, wait, pause. The vantage point from which you are seeing is different from truth. That's the first bold statement. Okay, now brace yourself for the second bold statement. Are you ready? Yeah. Okay. The second bold statement that Sankhya makes is, if you see the truth as it is, you will be in samadhi. If you see the truth as it is, if you are in Satya, then you will be so happy, so joyful, you will be blissed out, you will be in samadhi. It is like another analogy that is given. A beggar suddenly realizes, oh, I am sitting on a treasure, the place in which I have been begging from for the last 40 years. When I dig underneath, there's a box of gold coins sitting there. Can you imagine how joyful they'll be? Right? Oh, wow, I've been sitting on a treasure. That is the feeling multiplied by some million times. That's the feeling of samadhi. I mentioned million because the exact mathematics of happiness is given in the Taittiriya Upanishad. Taittiriya Upanishad, it makes an analysis of happiness. It says the maximum happiness that the world can give you. Suppose Elon Musk, I think he's the number one, or has he come down to number two because of Tesla? Who is the third number one? Right? Either Jeff Bezos or I don't know. If they come and say, okay, all my wealth I'm going to give it to you, perhaps we feel some happiness, perhaps a lot of happiness. Oh, I understand. So, if you take that as 1 unit of happiness, now I can do what I want. I have all the money, all the resources. I don't need to worry about anything. Take it as 1 unit of happiness. Then, we had amazing music to begin the session. A Gandharva, person who immersed in music, experienced 10 times that happiness. Person who immersed in music, Manushya Gandharva, 10 times that happiness. And then there's the next gradation. Deva Gandharva, divine musician, 10 times that. And then he goes on step by step, and ultimately, the highest Brahmajnani experiences for 10 times 10, for 10 to the power 7 or 8, some 10 million times perhaps, is the happiness. That much amount of happiness they experience when they enter samadhi. Amazing, right? Perhaps when Elon Musk comes and gives, no, I'm already in samadhi, but you're going to give me like 1 million.
And then sing Jai Shambho.
So what is the multiplying factor?
10. Each time, well, actually it's not 10, sorry, it's 100. Shakam. Shakam is just the word Shakam, 100. So 10 to the 1 followed by many zeros. That's the infinite. For all practice purposes, the infinite times infinite joy. So that is the point. So coming back to this Karma Sharira. Now, this Karma Sharira, how can we imagine this? How can we put in our head the fact that avidya or ignorance is what is causing all our drives, our habits, samskaras, vasanas. And in fact, Shankara also says, Sharira-10YEC-YogaRetreat-Satsang. That means this Karma Sharira is responsible for the manifestation of the other two Shariras. It is because of the Karma Sharira, the other two Shariras manifest in the first place. So if the Karma Sharira is empty, but cleansed, we won't even have to take another burden. We are done, we have completed the journey. So, my teacher used to give a very beautiful example. You know, when you have a movie projector, it's just shining light. But in order to create a scene on the screen, you have a film. Right? And when the light passes through the film, there are parts of the film that is blocked out or colored so that the exact scenery that you want to project, it goes through that. Our Karma Sharira is like that. That dark spot are our avidya. You don't see certain parts of the screen. You see some parts of the screen that is colored. So you create that scene on the screen. And that is what we experience in our life. So all this avidya, they block out the truth. And when you block it out, you see something that is not there. It is like when you go and look at the night sky. Some people will see a bear, great bear, from some stars are there, they see a bear. In India, they saw a rishi, not bear, but a rishi, after rishi. So different cultures will see different things. Right? Depends on which vantage point from which you see it. So like that, it's the same like the light of awareness that is flowing, but whatever the Karma Sharira is projecting is what we perceive and see.
And you can control the settings to make it more colorful or
Yes,
completely.
but how do we do that? See, we don't even have good control over our Sukshma Sharira. We don't even control our mind. It takes a lot of practice. But imagine how can we go even subtler than that, Karma Sharira to change us. It's a big journey, right? So how do we do that? And Patanjali gives us two clues for that. And if you want to know what he said, how to manage the Karma Sharira. But before that, you want to say
No, I think this is interesting task, and please continue.
So the way to mold the samskara, that's what we are managing. Samskara are those habits that are created by this avidya and all that. By the way, there are two words that are used here in the Karma Sharira, samskara and vasana. You have heard of this word, samskara. Samskara is the sum total of all the activities that I have done up to this point, not just in this lifetime, but across multiple lifetimes. The groove is created by all our activities, the integration of the sum total of all our actions done up to this point. So, samskara talk about our habits. That brushing our teeth is a samskara. First morning, like a robo, we brush our teeth. What about vasanas? Vasanas is similar to samskara. Vasanas, the literal meaning of vasanas is fragrance. Oh, there is some joy there, let me go to it. It's not out of habit, but the mind thinks, oh, there is joy there, let me go to it. So that is vasana. So that's a subtle difference between samskara and vasana. But here is the thing. Yogis discovered that the true joy comes from the self. If the mind thinks, my joy is somewhere else. Oh, it is in the chocolate. I eat the chocolate, I am happy. So my joy is in the chocolate. Or my joy is in some other physical object. iPhone 13. Is that what's the latest? They're happy for 1 year, but the next iPhone is released, they are miserable. Oh, my happiness is now graduated. iPhone 14 now. I should be careful because I worked for Apple for 6 years. I worked on iPhone project. So the point is, when we mistakenly think my joy is outside, It is like seeing the rope, thinking of it as a snake. That's a misperception. Misperception. So the yogi discovers the joy is in the self, and it's very beautiful analogy that is given by Shankara in his commentary to one of the verses in the Bhagavad Gita. I quote the Bhagavad Gita. It says, Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinah rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishva nivartati. Second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Says, a yogi, one of the practices that they do is to shut off their senses from the sense objects. You're giving rest to the Sukshma Shrira here. You don't strain your senses. You fast or you starve them for some time. And then Krishna says, even if you do that, the yogi discovers that although they are not seeing anything, hearing anything, they close their eyes, they are shut off from the world, but the thoughts about those objects will still torment them. They'll be sitting in the eyes closed, they'll still be thinking about the Rasagula. Right? Oh, if I have that, I'll be happy. But the mind is thinking about it. It's manufacturing. My pratyaya is being manufactured. So, in order to transcend even that, the only way to know that my happiness is not there, but inside me, inside the reservoir of happiness, the only way to know it is, this is where Shankara gives an analogy. He says, you don't need a candle when the sun is shining there. Like that, when the yogi discovers the joy within, it's like the sun, and the little pleasure that we get from outside objects, it's like a candle. So when you have the sunlight, what's the use of the candle? You just throw it away. So that realization comes. Till we reach that state, we have to play with this karma shari. We have to mold the samskaras and the vasanas. For example, if you are given a choice, if somebody yells at you, would you rather, if you are given a choice, would you rather pick the response of anger or centeredness or compassion? To choose the latter, I hope. Nobody wants to choose anger. I want to be an angry, I want to be in rage. Nobody will deliberately choose that option. So how do we transform the mind, which initially is reacting as anger? And you have to transform that to a centered state of mind. For example, the Yoga Sutra, the first practice that is given is ahimsa. That's the first yama. Ahimsa, satyasya, brahmacharya, aparigraha, yama, ahimsa, non-violence. A yogi is always in the place of non-violence. But a student yogi who just started practice of yoga, sometimes when somebody else gives them an insult, I have thoughts of himsa will come in there. Let me teach them a lesson. That himsa will come in their mind. So it becomes a practice for them to choose ahimsa regardless of their natural samskara or tendency. The habits are pulling the mind towards himsa, but I want to control my mind so that I do not respond or give expression to that himsa thought. Let me choose ahimsa always. So it's a conscious practice. But for a yogi, it becomes natural. It doesn't even have to think because they'll always respond to situations. Ahimsa. So how to get to that state? We have to change our samskaras and vasanas. You know how to do that? Patanjali gives a very beautiful technique. If you take a metal, if you want to change the shape of a metal, what do? You take a very big hammer and bang it many times. It's a lot of work, right? But what can be done is heat it. They heat that metal to very high temperature, red hot perhaps. And it's a light tap of a hammer. You can easily change shape. It becomes more malleable. Right? Like that, our samskara, which have now become very solidified in the karma sharira, if you want to change the shape of that, you need to introduce heat. That is exactly what tapas is. The word tapas literally means heat. The willingness to go through discomfort, the friction that is caused by going against the current of habits, that heat that it creates, is the tapas. So in that samskaro anya samskara pratipatti. You can transform the samskaras that you don't want to those samskaras that you do want and that will serve you, that will help you in the path of yoga. So these are the different ways to play with karma sharira. And I'll just mention a couple of more things about practices related to karma sharira. We saw practices with the Sthula sharira and the Sukshma sharira. Sukshma sharira is pranayama, meditation. Karma sharira, I'll mention a couple of things. Would you like to know? So one practice is called the practice of Jyotishmati. Jyotishmati. Jyoti means light. Jyotishmati means illumine the mind with more light of awareness. It's like when you look at the rope snake analogy, if you have a bright flashlight, you will never mistake the rope to be a snake in the first place. It was dark, that's why there was a misperception. But if you have a strong light, nice flashlight, you won't even make that mistake because it is so clear what is in front of you. So we have a flashlight actually. Our mind, the Jyotishmati, our mind is like I use the analogy of a mirror before, but you can also think of it as a crystal. Crystal. The mind reflects the light of the self. Remember the self is like the sun. We saw this analogy in Bhagavad Gita. Mind is like a crystal. The crystal has a lot of tamas in it. What is tamas? Darkness, like smoke, or it has impurity in the mind. We feel tamasic. We say that my mind is filled with fog, confused mind. I want to transform a foggy mind to a clear one, crystal clear mind. But Patanjali uses the word crystal clear. Abhijata Sneva Mani, as the Sutra says. When the mind is in Tattva, it is crystal clear. When it is crystal clear, it shines bright because it reflects the light of the self. So when the mind is crystal clear, when you see the Jyotishmati light, then you will not mistake an object for something. That misperception will never arise in the mind. So the ajnana will get removed. You see the truth as it is. So that is one practice. By the way, that brings us to the question, how do we bring the mind to a place of crystal clarity? For that, all these practices of pranayama, the meditation, all that will help for the mind to come to a place of tranquility. So that helps with the karma sharira. And there's one more. The other part is to be in the presence of a guru, of a teacher. A teacher who sees the rope as a rope will tell the student, okay, don't worry, this is not a snake, it's the rope, trust me. And when we trust the teacher, this is called Shraddha. Adi Shankara says, Guru Vedanta Vakyadishu Vishwasaha Shraddha. When we trust the word of the yogic wisdom, and when we trust the words of the teacher, the Guru, then you see the truth as it is, trust in their word. Just by being in the presence of a teacher can transform us. Vitaraga Vishayam Vachita, that's the Sutra of Patanjali. Because that's the saying in the in Sanskrit, it says, Siddhasya Lakshanani Sadhakasya Sadhanani. Siddhasya Lakshanani Sadhakasya Sadhanani means Siddha means an enlightened person. Lakshana means the natural qualities or the attributes. Siddhasya Lakshana means what are the natural tendencies of an enlightened person? Do they get angry? They are always centered. An enlightened person, a person with a stable mind, Siddha Prajna, stable mind. That becomes the sadhana of the sadhaka. What comes naturally for a Siddha becomes the practice for a sadhaka. So that is why when we see a teacher, that gives us the what sadhana should I do, how can I transform the karma sharira with tapa. So that is what it gives. So let's summarize. I think we spoke quite a bit. So thank you for your enthusiastic listening. We summarize this, right?
Yeah.
The most important thing that Shankara says is Sthula Sukshma Karma Sharira not together it the self is beyond all things. It's not even a partnership, it's beyond all things. The self is beyond all things. And we use these three as vehicles or instruments to live our life, experience and express in our life. How we receive life experience and how we express ourselves through our actions, the words that we say, etc. So we use all these three bodies. And a person who is enlightened doesn't mean that they will discard the body. They will not say bye-bye and they will chop off all the three bodies. That's not going to happen. They will use this in a deliberate way. Like a person who is watching a movie knows deep inside that it is just some lila, some drama that's going on. It's not real. But deliberately, for some time, they suspend that so that they go through the thrill of the movie. If you constantly remind yourself, oh, it's just a movie, then you won't enjoy it. But you want to deliberately suspend that. So you create avidya deliberately. You forget that it's just drama. It's not real, it's just something going on, masters or something. But deliberately, you bring avidya to enjoy the thrill, and then you bring the vidya back. So that is the thing. So I hope you like this three bodies topic, because this is one of the fascinating topics, and I find a lot of aha moments when I was reading this segment of the Tattva Bodha, how the three bodies are constructed. It's amazing.
I mean, that was really good. I think the hardware software settings, I think that's a good way to remember. Yeah, settings is the configuration. Yeah.
So one, this is the most fascinating. The biggest takeaway to me was the film analogy, the dark point that creates the impression. The thing that I'm exploring is the Karana Shrira. How do you rid of the Karana Shrira? It almost feels like there's a nuke movement. It's like, when like in the path of Jnana Yoga, EkaShri-The10YEC-YogaRetreat-Satsang, when you actually know that this is all what is real, what is not real. When you have that, it's almost like there is no abhyasa. It's like one nuke moment and everything can disappear. And then from that point on, you just deliberately play along.
So here's the thing. We are not trying to rid them. That will be like discarding the body. The body is taken. Yeah. All three bodies are taken. So the way we transcend them is by making them light, and it disappears into the background. It is like, how do you make these three bodies light? Take a physical body, for example. It is like shining sattva. There are three gunas, right? Sattva, Rajasa, Sattva. Yeah. So sattva is described when there's a lot of sattva in the body. Then we experience it as sattva laghu prakashakam. It's from Santikarika. I mentioned Ishvara Krishna. This statement is from Santikarika. So Ishvara Krishna says sattva laghu prakashakam. Laghu means light. Prakashakam means light. Light as in not heavy, not light as in this. Light as in the opposite of heavy. So light and bright. That's what sattva is. Right. So laghu prakashakam. So with a lot of sattva, you forget the body and you feel as if you are disembodied.
So the thing is, it's not even in the light it's not there in your foreground, like you said, it just becomes in the background. Whether it's heavy, like, as an example, whether it has more forms or less forms, it's immaterial. It just becomes part of the thing. And that's one of the reasons some of the enlightened beings, they have cancer, they have overweight, they have all the things, but they transcended that. It just put them in the background. The same thing in the Karana, Sthula Shrira and all that stuff is there. But they intentionally, with the knowledge of the wisdom that they have, they seem to put that into the background.
Yeah, but let me go back to the point.
Yeah.
So enlightened people, when we talk about the ailments in the body that they experience, it's not that they deliberately chose that.
Yeah.
If somebody gives an option, do you want a healthy tummy now, or do you want to experience a little bit of tummy ache? would anyone choose consciously, deliberately? Oh, I want to experience my tummy ache today. Nobody will choose that deliberately. Why did that happen? It is because of the past karma, right? Unconsciously, there were some actions that were done. Like a child not knowing anything about fire, injuring themselves. Avidya, because of avidya. The point is, even after enlightenment, right, there is the prarabdha karma. The momentum of some of the karma still has to be laid out.
So the thing is, like as an example, an enlightened being, because they operate with such a level of freedom, like Prajosa Pravanti. Even if there is a real snake, they probably won't get fearful of that. That's the reason why they go to the forests and this stuff. Because it's like if an animal comes in there, what are you worried about? You're only worried about this thing. So when they operate as such a free, limited thing, they almost make all this like a no-op. This is a game, and then they selectively choose what game that they would want to. They conveniently introduce avidya within themselves. They play along, but they become like immune. They transcend to this entire thing. So it's almost like a realization when they come in. Then you can choose the game any which way that you would want.
It's like the story I'm reminded of now is Buddha when he met Angulimala. Angulimala was one of the most notorious canonists of their time. Angulimala. The name itself is very unique. He used to chop the fingers of people and put them as a garland. He used to murder them. And people were terrified and he was roaming around the forest. So one day, Buddha ran into Angulimala. Angulimala said, "Oh, you know who I am? You chop your fingers, put them in the mala. Tell your final prayer, your end has come." And Buddha said, "Oh, this is going to make you happy. Here, take my fingers." He just did that. He was so sure that he is not the body. Okay, if this makes you happy, let me give you this. No, there's another story also. I'll come back to this, but let me digress a little bit more. There's another story of, this asana is called Vajra. Vajra means diamond. Why is this called diamond posture? Diamond is the hardest material. Hardest. This posture brings so much strength, hardness to the spine. Practice of this posture and variation. There was a great yogi by name Dadichi. He used to practice a lot of this, and he had a spine that is so strong. And at that time, Indra and there was another, what was the demon? Do you remember? Vritra, I think his name is Vritra. Vritra was a big demon, and he went to Brahma and said, "Okay, nobody should kill me with this weapon, that weapon, etc." And there was one exception. The exception was that he can be killed by a weapon that is made by the bones of a person. Actually, forgot to ask Brahma. So Indra said, "Okay, I need a strong weapon. Let me go and ask Yogi Dadichi. He has a very strong spine. I'm sure he'll be willing to give up his body for this." So he asked Dadichi, "Please, can you just discard your garment? This body, take another body, find a nice body." It's a yogi after all. You can easily migrate from one body to another body. So Dadichi said, "Oh, yeah, this is a very dharmic cause. Don't worry, here." In the next nanosecond, he quit the body and he went into high yoga. And Indra made Vajraism. Vajra. It was so strong, like a diamond, this mace, a gada, he constructed out of the spine of Dadichi. And with that, he killed Vritra. So the point I'm making is the yogis are so sure that I am not the body that even to give up the body is not a big deal for me. Okay, here, take it. Like that. So Buddha said, "Take this, makes you happy, take it." So this was shocking for Angulimala because nobody else had made the statement before. Everybody else had a flight or fight response, right? And here Buddha said, "Please take my fingers." So he was shocked. He didn't know how to respond. He was gathering his thoughts. And in that moment, Buddha said, "You really think you're happy? You have so many fingers. In your mala, you have chopped so many fingers. If it really makes you happy, you are a finger millionaire. So many fingers are there. You have been a very nice, happy person by now. But I still see that you have some unhappiness in your heart. Nakuri Mala, it was a moment of contemplation. Oh my God, what he's saying is right. Huge transformation takes place in his mind. And he falls at the feet of Buddha. Oh my God, you're a very wise person. Tell me where I can find happiness. And then he becomes a student and starts serving Buddha. So that's how the story goes. Now, Patanjali, he makes a statement, very beautiful statement in the Yoga Sutra. He says, the difference between a scholar and jnani. A scholar is somebody who knows all this. Whatever we discussed today, I am not the body, I am not the karma sharira, I am not the stula sharira, sharira. Yet, when we see a cockroach, we get, at least I get afraid. Although I am not the body, yet when danger comes, instinctually that response is there. So he says, Swa rasavahi vidushopi amaruno abhinivesha. A vidusha means a scholar. They have not experienced the truth of it, but they just conceptually know it in life. Just by knowing something doesn't mean that they are free from it. They still get afraid. They know they are not the body, but when some danger comes, they still get afraid. Whereas a jnani, nothing can be fear in them. Because they are so sure that not the body, that you can not uproot their state of happiness at all.
This is so profound. I know we are far exceeding the time, but one of the interesting things, like what we were talking yesterday, from that avidya leads to other kleshas, like the asmita leads to abhinivesha, like what you just talked about, like the prasavam. And then there is a pratiprasavam that happens, is a process that you can actually unwind. The thing that I'm very fascinated with is, from the avidya, the biggest klesha that we all can get to is asmita. From where we have relationships, my entity, my history, my family, and all these my things that creates even more settings, hardware, and software, right? It's kind. So the only way to do this is deliberately untie the asmita to smita or something like that. Right? Is that possible though?
At least in the Yoga Sutra, he says, with the shining the light of awareness. So Raghuji mentioned about the unconscious, subconscious, and all that. But if we shine the light of consciousness there and feel that, so that you reshape your samskara.
And the thing is, but the interesting thing is, a relationship is made of two subject and object. Only when both subject and object are tango along, you can all be smoothly, graciously get rid of the klesha at the same time. If one person is transcendent this.
A yogi will never use
Exactly.
that.
He's never talking about yogi. He's never getting
So they set the example. And they evoke the best in us.
Correct.
So when they are a shining example, like Buddha. Buddha didn't say, okay, Angulimala, if you get enlightened, then I will give you some.
So the example of Buddha is an example, because this is a debate that gets Angulimala is a very binary kind of an example. But I forgot the name of Buddha's wife, right? Yashoda, right? The thing is, the Buddha got enlightened. It's like, hey, now everybody is part of him, and then there is no special family or any of this stuff. But Yashoda, later on, at a later time, I believe she also became a devotee. I don't know whether she became a Buddha or not. That I'm not sure. But a lot of people look at that story today, and they see that as an asymmetric way of, one person unilaterally chose the path of enlightenment, and then left the other person behind. Right? So that's a cause of a lot of debate. Right? So if Yashoda also pursued the path of Buddha, like what perhaps in my limited understanding of Yajnavalkya and his family, they all in the right sangha, they all coexisted like in a sacred relationship, then I think it all worked out well. But if it's an asymmetric relationship, then it would probably create some burnout.
But I heard about a story where there was two enlightened masters. So one says, what is the reason for your enlightenment? He says, it's my wife. The other also says, it's the same. I mean, other also says, it's my wife. Because of
So that is one, samsara is one of the.
agree. So here, he has, what does she do? She's so great, she's so pious, she's so fantastic, I'm so surprised with her greatness. Right? The other says she's so troublesome and all, but that gives me the possibility within. Right? So that gives me a choice.
Actually, wife is just at least in the Shankara's kind of stuff, it's just any relationship, any subject, any duality, subject and object can create an experience, and then that experience leads to karma tag. Like what Shankara says in Nirvana Shatakam, where you transcend aham mohisam naima mochana bhokta. This is when you nullify this duality. That's when the karma Shrira just essentially, all these things suddenly go into the background. The Tattva Bodha, perhaps. But
That's all. As you know, Patanjali defines samadhi.
yeah.
Tadeva samadhi nirvaka urupa shunyam iva samadhi.
There is only one.
It's like a salt dissolving water. There's only one.
Or zero. Shrikant, now you get point. The 10 comes. Sorry.
Yes, two questions. Yeah.
So, for current you mentioned two practices,
YogaforThreeBodies and then presence of a teacher or guru.
So, how to do
Vishoka, Jyotish. There are actually special meditation practices for that. Jyotishpati recites the translation. That is the point of Jyotishpati. So in meditation, you can actually visualize light. So light, luminous point. That becomes the meditation.
So in Bhagavad Gita also it is there.
Oh yes, in the morning session.
So in Bhagavad Gita also it is there. Roar Madhe, says that always keep that.
Yes. In fact, there was one. Shisham Deshe Pratisthapya Stiramatmanavasana. Not Shisham, not Nisha, Kaisa Pushotkaram. Tatra Ekantara Manakritva. Yata Chittendriya Priyaha, Upavishyasane Indriya, Yoga Matava Shuddhane. And then I think next is Samakaya Shirozgiro, Arya Nadastina, Sampreksha Nasikagram Sam. Talking the tip of the nose, this tip, not this. Sampreksha Nasikagram Sam, Vishascha Anoloka. Yeah, we mentioned Guru Madhya, Guru Pranam. So thank you all for your enthusiasm. I apologize, I think it took a little longer than I got carried away. So
This is so profound. Actually, today, a little bit of my Advaita and Vedanta exploration of Patanjali, and I had like some loose ends. Today you added some more things, and the film was such a beautiful, beautiful thing. So, what a wonderful, wonderful satsang today, and Shriram and EkaShri as always, taking all of us on this journey of the path of knowing ourselves, and in a systemic way. Nobody has to jump all the way to the end, so we can do a little bit of pranayama, a little bit of asana, a little bit of yama, and we all get to the same bullseye. And I think that's divine good. So I know there is a little bit of surprise and delight from Raghuji and Satyamji about honoring our gurus, Ekaji and Shriramji. So Ekaji, so on behalf of Raghuji and Satyamji from Esprasa and you, so that's one of the invention area which I think you know about YogaFi. The YogaFi, this is a small yoga mat. So we are presenting this YogaFi mat to each one of you.
It's more representing your schools. Right? It's the machine. Thank you so much.
Following YogaFi for quite some time. Now all we need is all your wisdom needs to somehow enter into the mat. We don't know how. So you need
direction, right? So your wisdom into the mat into the communication.
So we not only have to enlighten the people, enlighten the mat, so that the mat can do your job.
It has all the three, the hardware, software, configuration, right? So the app is the configuration, right? That will come into the presence of the practitioner.
App is going to be updated every time, our Nagendra and group, and anyway, the Mysore team develops it. It's always updated all the time.
And that's, we're also.
Feedback will be very best asset for them also.
I've seen video of promotion video.
And Srinidhi also will get one as part
No,
of
now, why
YEC.
me? It is like I'm already supposed to be a member. This is for my team. Come. So come here. We'll all take a picture. Come, Raghu and Satyam. Come. You're man. You're my man. Now, all that it means is, by next year, Kiran should have a Yogify class.
Yeah.
Ramakan should have a Yogify class. Kiran, Raghu, you also should have our own class.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we are talking to the cafe as well. So can start with EkaShri schools using it.
Now, I think the knowledge session is there. So if anybody would want to make this be a celebration, sing some songs and any performance, so do you have your instrument? You have it. You have it.
I think it's already late.
Yeah. So, but otherwise, anybody want to sing any final chant? Anything? Kiran? Want to do the final?
Shriram ji, EkaShri is
Yeah.
which we
Actually,
like to.
want to sing anything? Or it's too late now?
I think you sing the
Which one?
this one you are learning.
I need only limited slokas, nothing more. No, you want to say? Okay, come. And you have to introduce yourself. Yeah? Okay, that's awesome.
We have a volunteer.
Oh, you can do, man. You're like the enlightened guru. We all should learn from you. See, this is the way to organize ourselves.
So my name is Omkar.
Wow.
And sixth grade. I was in Vedanta.
Are you gonna sing?
Awesome.
What are you going to say?
I'll sit down.
So we have a spiritual group, and there's a song from that spiritual group, and I'm listening to it. And there's
Okay.
yeah.
You guys understand Telugu?
Yes.
Okay. It's the Bhakti and the Bhava technique of practice.
మారదు జీవనము స్వాధ్యాయము వినా వేయి ఉపాయములను నీవు చేసినా మారదు జీవనము స్వాధ్యాయము వినా స్వాధ్యాయముతోనే జీవన దృష్టి మారును దృష్టి లాభించినది సృష్టి మారిపోవును నిజమైన సుఖమెరుగ వేది దీవినా మారదు జీవనము స్వాధ్యాయము వినా స్వాధ్యాయి భోగముల దాసుడు కానేరడు శోకమునకు రోగమునకు దాసుడు కానేరడు భావపూర్ణుడైయుండు జీవనమునా మారదు జీవనము స్వాధ్యాయము వినా తనలోనే దృష్టి నతను నిలిపియుండును పరుల దోషముల పైన ధ్యాసంచకుండును చేయును తన పొరపాట్ల యొక్క ప్రకటన మారదు జీవనము స్వాధ్యాయము వినా సుఖమందెప్పుడు తాను పొంగిపోదు దుఃఖమందున తాను భయపడిపోదు ముందునకే సాగును రెంటి అందునా మారదు జీవనము స్వాధ్యాయము వినా ఈశ్వరుని ప్రేమను స్వాధ్యాయి ఎరుగును సృష్టిలోని గొప్పదనం అది అని తెలుపును నచ్చదు తనకేదియును ఈశ్వరుని వినా మారదు జీవనము స్వాధ్యాయము వినా వేయి ఉపాయములను నీవు చేసినా మారదు జీవనం స్వాధ్యాయం వినా.
Once again, he's already there. He's already no, he's meant to teach us. So again, so Shriramji and Ekaji, thank you so much for the blessings. And we all good. And so we'll end with this one more performance. But what I'm going to request each one of you is, Ekaji and Shriramji has been dedicating their lives and everything that they do for the spreading of the message of yoga to people around the world. So we all should serve them, and be part of their mission. At the EkaShri Schools of Yoga, they're conducting a lot of programs. So go to their website, EkaShri.org, and be part of their mission. And I think I'm so blessed to be part of this journey. So what we're going to do is we're going to have them come here more frequently. We're in fact trying to do some EkaShri retreats where people can come and spend some weekends, so that we can not just come for like morning and evening, but we can also spend some time together so that we can at least practice the life of the journey. What I'm also going to do is in about after the Labor Day weekend, we're going to start weekend yoga classes here. And outdoors, this is meant to take advantage of this beautiful facility that we have for the community, and bring your kids. And what we're also planning on doing is here, and we are talking about conducting ice cream socials. So it's not just about yoga, but we are here to just celebrate. So in the afternoons, kids can come, everybody can come in, and then we can just celebrate and have fun. So from here, we can also talk about the different ways we can empower the youth and how we can create some samyama, yama, and niyama. But ultimately, it's all about creating joy. As Shriramji said, any suffering is a misfortune. Okay, and perception leads to suffering. So we just have to be joyful. So once again,
you also talked about the persona changes, like the Costa Rica.
Yeah. So we're going to create a similar like this in Costa Rica, and then we talk about few other places. But I think from my side, I'm super thrilled that my family is here. Like that's a role that I play with my brother and so on and so forth. But we all bought this facility only for the service of the company. This is like only when it gets used for whatever the reason. If you want to conduct dance classes, if you want to do some ice cream socials, or anything, let's all use it and let's all share the job with each one of us. So with that, thank you everybody for coming here, and then let's continue this journey. And we're going to end with your final song. Yeah? And you need to say your name and then okay.
My name is YogaForThreeBodies, and I'm going to sing Sarvotham.
Wow.
Saraswati Namostute Sharade Vidya Prade Saraswati Namostute Sharade Vidya Prade Saraswati Namostute Sharati Vyakare Saraswati Namostute Narahari Sutta Vigilalita Navamanita Kambugale Narahari Sutta Vigilalita Navamanita Kambugale Surase Vita Padayugale Surase Vita Padayugale Surase Vita Padayugale Surase Vita Padayugale Sudhagara Samadavale Saraswati Namostute Sharati Vyakare Saraswati Namostute
We are told
Prodigy.
how
old are you?
How old are you? Hey,
Who is your guru?
who is it? Arti Premna. Very nice.
I'm so glad that you actually came here and wanted to sing. Otherwise, we would have missed such a beautiful, beautiful moment. Oh my God, you should sing more. Yeah? Can you come here more often? Yeah? Thank you. So I think, with that, I think this is the final beautiful invocation. And last year, I think, you're going to become, you should run the YEC. Yeah, you can become part of it, and then you should run the music department. Yeah? Oh,
so beautiful voice. Raga is also very not very easy. Amazing.
Actually, the one pending item that was left, but we were probably gonna. It's up to you. I'm gonna offer this. So, Shriram ji has a beautiful magical power. Whenever you place a violin in the Amritavarshi Raga, apparently the rains are gonna come down. So if people want to have rain, we should have him, play the violin. But we can also survive because we are in Texas, right? We can actually have him come again, and then in the drought, we'll have him come and do the performance, right? But once again, thanks everybody. I know it's been a long time. We also have a morning flight to take, but what a beautiful evening! And I just did not imagine that this is all going to pan out. And thank you so much for coming here. I hope you will partner with us in more and more sessions. And all of you, please make this be your home. Yep. Namaste.